If you're watching this, you know what 9/11 is, but I'm going to be talking about something that happened shortly after. The Clear Channel Memorandum was a list of songs sent out to stations owned by Clear Channel Communications for songs to not be played in the aftermath of 9/11. Nowadays, they're known as iHeartMedia and of course own stations like iHeartRadio, but also many others dubbed as alternative channels. Many are branded as Radio Blank or Alt Blank, but they could really be anything. At the time, they claimed 1,213 radio stations were owned by them. Point is, they own the largest share of America's airwaves. Clear Channel did issue a statement that the rumored banned songs playlist didn't exist, and it was up to radio station directors to determine what to play. Now, with that said, let's look at the list. Now, we should say none of these songs were technically banned, more of a strong suggestion, but I'm probably going to be referring to it as a ban throughout this video. The songs banned definitely ranged in how strange they were to ban them. For most of the songs, honestly, I would say it was pretty self-explanatory as to why it would be banned. But there's just some that I'm like, why was this banned? So I decided to try and find the most inexplicably banned song on this list. I started out by taking the list and sorting it into categories. Keep in mind, this is just how I sorted these songs, just kind of like a way that made sense in my head, trying to pick out a few different themes for reasons they could be banned, as there's no cited reason for the majority of the songs as to why they were individually banned. And keep in mind, some songs could be sorted into multiple categories. This is just me trying to figure out at least one reason why each song would have been banned. And now let's look at these categories. First category, I grouped together songs that related to war, death, loss, and destruction. Kind of a broad range of things to group together. I also include religious depictions of the afterlife, which will, I guess, it'd just be heaven and hell. It's not like they had Nirvana in there. Some example songs include It's the End of the World and I Feel Fine, Highway to Hell, Live and Let Die, and American Pie. I feel like this is the category that makes the most sense, as you probably wouldn't want to listen to songs about death and tragedy in the wake of a terrorist attack. I feel like most of these, it's like, alright, I understand why they were included, but some of them mentioned death like once, although maybe they were banned for other reasons. I don't know. The next category is Fire and Explosions, another one that's pretty self-explanatory. Example songs include Disco Inferno, Burning Down the House, and Burning for You. Even if those flames are metaphorical, And also here I realized I feel like I could think of a lot more songs involving fire. For example, the only song by The Doors that was banned was The End, but Light My Fire is right there. What am I doing? Giving notes on how to do better censorship? My third category is songs with references to flying, planes, the air, sky, etc. Kind of that whole sphere. Another category makes sense, although some of the inclusions here are like, alright. Mention planes like once, but that's enough for a ban. Songs I put into this category include Jet Airliner, Fly, Daniel, and In the Air Tonight. I'm also not the first person to mention that Benny and the Jets was banned, which is kind of funny because, they're not literal jets. But whatever. Get them out of here. A similar category, but I made it a separate one, is songs that mention falling or collapsing. Songs here are Free Fallin', Bound for the Floor, and Crumbling Down. I also put Jump and Jumper in this category, as I believe those were included in reference to people jumping from the towers as they fell. The next grouping I guess I would call misdeeds, as they're describing people doing crimes or other various nefarious actions. But they aren't super related to 9/11. Don't mention fire, planes, etc. For example, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. I gotta choose shorter song titles. Sabotage, and Evil Ways. This also feels like a good place to mention that Smooth Criminal was banned, but specifically the Alien Ant Farm cover, not the original Michael Jackson. So either someone just did not like that cover and wanted to see it banned, or they feared there'd be riots if MJ was banned on the airwaves. Maybe both. Who's to say? It's kind of strange to include a cover but not the original, I guess. This next category is pretty small, but it's got two clear examples. I would call it references to the Middle East, and the two songs here are Rock the Casbah and Walk Like an Egyptian. Maybe it used to be the case, but I feel like the average American doesn't know what a Casbah is. I knew it was something related to the Middle East, but I had to look it up to see what exactly it was, and it's like some kind of fort, essentially. Nearing the end here, this category of songs is kind of a mishmash of songs that have coincidentally unfortunate lyrics or titles. I feel like a lot of these weren't kind of distinct enough for their own group. I have songs mentioning Escape or New York. I also put songs here that were banned for mentioning Tuesday or September because, happened on a Tuesday in September. So Tuesday's gone and See You in September were included on that list. I also put Wipeout into this category because I guess I can see why it was banned, but I feel like it's a little bit of a jump to see the towers collapsing and then to think, ha 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 ha, Wipeout! Although now talking about this and having recorded this section 3 times, I'm now going to associate Wipeout with the towers collapsing. I'm sure that was your intended goal. Thank you, Clear Channel Communications. I also put My City Was Gone by the Pretenders in this category because I feel like that's just a very specifically unfortunate title. One major component of this list that I haven't mentioned yet is that they banned the entire catalog of Rage Against the Machine. I feel like they don't get that much radio play anyways, but they really just said, no, fuck you. too controversial, get out of here, you can't rage against the machine right now. One song jumped out to me when I first saw this list, and it's kind of the reason I started making this video, that being Obla Dee Obla Da by the Beatles, because why the hell was that bad? It didn't mention like any of the previous categories I've talked about, and then I went back and checked the lyrics because I'm like, I'm pretty sure most of the lyrics are just Obla Dee Obla Da, life goes on, but went through all the lyrics, I'm like, no, I don't see anything objectionable here. This leads to my next category of songs that are too happy. Apparently joyful music was banned after 9/11, and that's the only reason I can assume that this was banned. Supposedly that was the reason for banning What a Wonderful World, so I can only assume that was the reason for banning Obla Dee Obla Da 2, as well as Dancing in the Street. I feel like there's something kind of patronizing about banning a song for being too happy. Like, are we only supposed to consume somber art in times of sorrow or joyous art in times of joy? It seems so ridiculous to me to ban happy music. Like, I'm gonna listen to I don't want to listen to a joyous tune. Nope, you can only listen to songs that are sad, but not too sad, because we also banned a lot of songs that talk about death, so like, I don't know. Supposedly Celebration was played on a station in Washington, D.C., but hey, it's not on the list, so fair game. And apparently someone called in and was like, did you mean to play this? That call, it depends on how soon after 9/11 that happened, how justified that caller was. But like, what did regular radio stations even play in the days following 9/11? Because I assume it wasn't just like silence or constantly news. Like, I'm assuming they're just still playing music somewhat regularly. Was it just like, New York's first responders are working hard around the clock to find any remaining survivors and treat those affected. You know, of course, our hearts and souls are with New York right now, and if we hear any major updates, we'll keep you informed here. Now here's Wonderwall. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back. Now we get to the songs that I could not figure out a category for. First up here is Brain Stew by Green Day. The song is about insomnia, and the lyrics talk about feeling like shit, so I guess I can understand why it was banned. You know, you don't want to just be playing songs about feeling terrible, I guess. The Beatles have another song I want to talk about, that being Ticket to Ride. Now, my best guess for this one is because it's talking about someone leaving, although my other thought was that it is banned because it talks about tickets, and you can use a ticket to get on a plane, which doesn't quite make sense because, you know, there's lots of things, there's lots of literal tickets to ride, like plane, train, boat. Even though the song isn't talking about like a literal physical ticket, because, you know, talking about being with a Beatle is, you know, your ticket to ride. But She Don't Care? Maybe that's the reason why? Saying She Don't Care? We can't have songs talking about people not caring? I have no idea. Maybe it's obvious to someone else, but not to me. The first line is also, I think I'm gonna be sad, so maybe that was it? Just talking about sadness? Now, what I think is the most confusing song on this list is Travelin' Man by Ricky Nelson. And you might have thought just now, what? And who? This is a song from 1961 that I doubt anyone watching this video has ever heard of before. Actually, apparently it's been in Stranger Things, so maybe you have heard of it, but I doubt you had heard of it before then. So basically the song's about a passport bro who's got a woman in every port. Now, you might be thinking, was it banned because of planes? No, the song never once mentions planes. It does mention a few locales, but not New York or the Middle East or, like, kind of really anything objectionable, I can imagine. Just, he's got a Fraulein in Berlin, I don't know. With it fitting into none of the other categories I had established, I guess that kind of left only one option of, this song was too happy? Which, you know, ties back into my first point. Who the fuck was listening to this? I've never heard of this song, and I feel like I've heard of a lot of songs. Maybe this was famous. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I'm the one out of the loop. What older higher up was just like, oh, we can't have Travelin' Man by Ricky Nelson playing right now. It's just too joyous a tune. America isn't ready for it. No, but seriously, let me know if you've heard of Ricky Nelson or Travelin' Man. It's got to be the most confusing, not just for, like, the fact that it has no, like, questionable lyrics, but also, like, who was pulling that out of their ass, you know? Do I have a conclusion for this video? I don't know. Censorship is weird. Don't tell me what to listen to. I kind of really don't have a perspective on what America was like before and after 9/11, as I was, you know, barely a person. And if you think this video is offensive and should be banned, I don't know. Why are you still watching it? It feels weird to talk about something adjacent to 9/11 and afterwards be like, subscribe? But, subscribe? If you do, I'll talk about more music-related videos. Alright, bye.